Steven Kitshoff hits out at Ardie Savea's alleged role in Scott Robertson's exit. Former Springboks prop Steven Kitshoff has spoken candidly about the controversial circumstances surrounding Scott Robertson's dismissal as All Blacks head coach, admitting he was left feeling sour by reports linking star loose forward Ardie Savea to the decision. Robertson, one of the most decorated Super Rugby coaches of the professional era, was sacked last week after just 2 years in charge of the All Blacks, despite being midway through a 4-year contract. While New Zealand Rugby, NZR, has denied claims of a player revolt, media reports suggesting Savea was at the center of internal discontent have ignited debate across the rugby world. For Kitshoff, a 2-time Rugby World Cup winner and one of South Africa's most respected forwards, the situation struck a nerve, particularly when viewed through the lens of the Springboks' uncompromising team-first culture under Rassie Erasmus. The sacking that shook the rugby world. Robertson's removal came after an extensive review of the All Blacks' 2024 and 2025 international campaigns, which failed to meet NZR's lofty standards. The review, led by NZR chair David Kirk, concluded that a change in leadership was required, prompting a decision that stunned fans and analysts alike. However, the narrative surrounding Robertson's departure quickly shifted from results and performance to alleged unrest within the playing group. Reports in the New Zealand Herald claimed that Savea, the reigning World Rugby Player of the Year at the time, had grown increasingly frustrated with the team's direction and would consider his All Blacks future if changes were not made. NZR has since pushed back strongly against suggestions of an uprising, with Kirk insisting there was no player-led revolt. Savea himself has remained silent publicly, neither confirming nor denying the claims. Even so, the damage was done, and opinions across the rugby community have been sharply divided. Kitshoff's blunt assessment appearing on the GameTime Podcast, Kitshoff did not hide his discomfort with what he had read. While acknowledging that media reports can sometimes lack context, the former Stormers and Ulster prop said the perception alone left a bitter taste. In a Springboks environment, Rassie would go, "If that guy's acting out, I won't select him anymore, even if he's the best player." Kitshoff said, "We're not picking the best players, we're picking the right players." For Kitshoff, the issue was not about Savea's talent or status, but about the precedent such actions could set if they were indeed accurate. "Ardie's move like that is not the right move," he continued. "Are you saying you're the best, and it's either me or him?" The Springbok veteran admitted he was venting emotionally but felt compelled to speak on what he viewed as a dangerous dynamic between players and coaches. "I'm ranting, but it's just something I read, and I was a bit sour about it. I might have read it wrong, or it may not have given the full picture, but with the article that came out, it's a bit tough for me." Team before individual. The Springbok way. Kitshoff repeatedly returned to one central theme: accountability. In his view, elite players are selected to fulfill a role within a collective system, not to dictate the future of that system. "As a player, you get selected to do a job," he said, drawing on South Africa's own history. Kitshoff referenced the turbulent end of Jake White's tenure as Springboks coach in 2007, when player influence was widely believed to have played a role in his departure, despite World Cup success. Of course, what happened to Jake White? He was outvoted by the players, and you either get rid of the coach or the players, Kitshoff said. That experience, he suggested, reinforced the importance of strong leadership from the top and clear boundaries between management and playing personnel, a missed opportunity for leadership. One of Kitshoff's strongest criticisms was not necessarily about alleged ultimatums, but about what he felt was a missed leadership moment. "I promise you, Scott Robertson would have knuckled down this year and gone, 'We're going to change the trajectory of All Blacks rugby,'" Kitshoff said. "That's where I'm like, if Ardie could have just manned up and said, 'I take full ownership of what happened to this team this year, and I'm going to do my bit to change the course of the side,' I would have been like, 'Ardie, that is the way to do it.'" For Kitshoff, that hypothetical response would have embodied true leadership, accepting responsibility rather than distancing oneself from failure. "And that's what I didn't like," he added. Captaincy complicates the narrative. Another point that troubled Kitshoff was the apparent contradiction between reports of tension and Savea's standing within the team. Despite the supposed friction under Robertson, Savea remained a trusted senior figure and was regularly appointed captain when Scott Barrett was unavailable. Scott's the captain. There's nothing that came out from him because he worked with Razor through all their Super Rugby wins and was the captain, Kitshoff said. When Scott wasn't available, Ardie was captain. Surely, if there's qualms between them, you wouldn't make him captain. The fact that Robertson continued to entrust Savea with leadership responsibilities appears to undermine claims of fractured relationship, raising further questions about how much of the narrative reflects reality versus speculation. NZ Rugby pushes back. NZR chair David Kirk has been firm in rejecting the idea that player power influenced the decision to sack Robertson. There was no uprising, Kirk said in response to the reports, insisting the call was based solely on performance, strategy, and a long-term direction of the All Blacks. Yet in a modern era of professional sport, where player voices carry increasing weight, the distinction between consultation and influence can often become blurred, especially when global superstars are involved. That Savea's silence has only fueled debate, leaving fans to interpret events through leaks, opinion pieces, and former players' commentary. Respect for Robertson's credentials beyond the controversy. Kitshoff was keen to defend Robertson's reputation as a coach, emphasizing that his appointment was based on merit, not hype. A coach is selected because of merit, he said. He's not just put there because he's won a lucky draw contest and all of a sudden he's coach of the ABs. He gets selected because of his credentials. Robertson's record with the Crusaders, multiple Super Rugby titles, and a culture of sustained excellence made him an obvious candidate to lead the All Blacks. Kitshoff stressed that such achievements should not be dismissed lightly. He should know about 80% of the squad, Kitshoff added, either that have worked with him before or worked with the management. He knows the squad, he knows the people, he knows the team around him. They wouldn't just put a clown in there for the sake of it. A dangerous precedent? Perhaps Kitshoff's most pointed criticism came when discussing the broader implications if a single player were indeed able to influence a coaching appointment. I don't know if it's one player, he said, but one player is public about it and goes, it's either him or me. If you don't get rid of him, I'm going to play my rugby at Leinster or in Japan. That is not caring about your country and putting your country first. Those comments reflect a deeply ingrained Springbok philosophy, one forged through adversity, transformation, and collective sacrifice, where no individual is considered bigger than the jersey. The All Blacks at a crossroads, whether the reports involving Savea are accurate or exaggerated. The fallout highlights the delicate balance modern rugby must strike between player welfare, leadership input, and institutional authority. For the All Blacks, Robertson's dismissal represents more than just a coaching change. It is a moment of reckoning about culture, accountability, and direction. For players, particularly senior leaders, it is a reminder that influence comes with responsibility, and perception can be just as powerful as reality. Silence, speculation, and the road ahead until Savea addresses the situation publicly, speculation will continue. Supporters will debate whether he was unfairly portrayed, while critics will question whether player power has gone too far. Kitshoff, for his part, made it clear that his reaction was shaped by what he read, not personal knowledge, but his comments underline how such narratives resonate beyond national borders. In elite rugby, reputations are global, and decisions made in Wellington or Auckland are scrutinized in Cape Town, Dublin, and Paris alike. Final thoughts. Steven Kitshoff's comments may divide opinion, but they tap into a timeless rugby debate. Who truly holds power in a team? The coach, the players, or the jersey itself? For Kitshoff, the answer is clear. The jersey must always come first. As the All Blacks prepare to appoint a new head coach and rebuild following Robertson's abrupt exit, the spotlight will remain firmly on leadership, not just from the coaching box, but within the playing group itself. And in a rugby nation where expectations are relentless and scrutiny is unforgiving, how that leadership is perceived may shape the next era of All Blacks rugby as much as any tactical blueprint ever could.